welcome to another glorious episode of the Put On Waivers Football Show. I'm here, host Dwayne Douglas, podcasting on the beautiful shores of the Pacific Ocean. Beautiful day out here in Southern California. Guest host is Ryan Holmes, Raider Ramble, all those good stuff, all that good stuff there. Ryan, how you doing today?
I'm doing good. I'm also on the beautiful West Coast in sunny Southern California.
It's so beautiful. It's so nice. So nice. A lot of my friends back home, Connecticut, are just they got hit with a foot of snow when they're just like texting me all these pictures and they're just with MF emojis. It's not good. It's all good. So a little bit. It's not really a bombshell this week at all for the Raiders. We've talked about Carr in the past, Carr in the future, whatever. Has a team friendly deal as far as for what his production is as a player. I think at least, and there were some reports that teams are calling about him. Well, I mean, he's a quality quarterback in the National Football League, and teams are going to inquire about him. And as far as what they could get for him, and what do you think that if they did move on from him, that would have to mean the only way you do this move, Ryan, is if you're getting another number 4, a former Clemson quarterback to come to replace him, correct?
Absolutely. Gruden's not moving on from Derek Carr unless he knows he has a Deshaun Watson trade done. Mm-hmm. And I understand the upgrade. Deshaun Watson, top 5 quarterback in the NFL. He's 25 years old. He's younger. The contract gets up there, not next year, it's the year after where you're getting closer to $40 million. But I don't know. I just don't see them trading Derek Carr. I don't think anyone's giving them 2 number 1s, which is kind of what the report is of what they're looking for. If a team calls and offers, I saw today, like Carolina, if they called and offered the 8th pick, I don't think that's enough. Gruden, for him to move Carr, he has to already have the other deal done for Deshaun Watson. They're not moving Carr and then trying to figure it out after that point. So I think at the end of the day, Houston's going to hold on to Watson as long as they can. This is going to go on into training camp, past the draft, into July. And Derek Carr is going to be taking snaps in Henderson, Nevada next year as the quarterback of the Raiders.
Yeah, we had a question from the our first question for our show from the text line said who do you think is going to be taking snaps from Rodney Hudson? And I was like, I think it's going to be Derek Carr. So I think unless things go crazy, I don't see how you can how that changes at all. We talked about it a little bit on my other show, the Cover 3D Raider podcast. I'm not sure if it what do you even if your Carr he's happy here for the most part. He's not a malcontent. What if if he just says, hey, I'm either come out and say we're getting an extension or send me to Indianapolis. You ever see anything like that? Hey, that's not really in his demeanor, right?
No, that's not in his nature. I think he wants to be in Las Vegas. He said that. He wants to play his whole career there. I would think behind the scenes, Gruden and Mayock have sat down with him and explained to him what's going on. They're receiving calls. They've probably reassured him that he's most likely going to be the quarterback next year. So there definitely was stuff going on behind the scenes where they've talked to Carr at this point. I don't think that he's been left out in the dark and he's just finding out about the stuff on Twitter. So they're doing their due diligence. If a team does call up and says, hey, here's 2 number 1s and maybe a number 3 or a 4, then yeah, you have to listen to that. I mean, they traded Khalil Mack. That doesn't mean they're not going to trade Derek Carr, but they're going to have to get that kind of offer even to start thinking about it, and then have to know who the next quarterback is going to be before they make that move.
And that's the reason why I don't think a move gets made, because if this was year 1, you can get away with it. But we're 3 years deep in this, and and this this was supposed to be a playoff year. Next year has to be a playoff year, and it's going to be hard when you look at the other side of the football to kind of justify not doing what you need to do to help Gus Bradley become at least a halfway decent defensive unit, right?
Yeah, and all these trade rumors that have Darren Waller in them, you could burn every one of those. They're not trading Darren Waller under any circumstance.
You see, Have you seen that contract that Darren Waller has compared to Kittle's? And
Yeah, he's making like $7.5
I
million.
mean,
Like,
come on,
that's a steal.
that's a steal. There's no way. That's one of the few things that Gruden and Mayock got right as far as all this goes. Gruden the GM versus Gruden the coach, and I was listening to Michael Lombardi the other day. He said that always gets in the way. He even floated the fact that, well, something that I totally disagree with, is the fact that they would move on from Carr, use that allocated money to fix the rest of the rest of the team, and then roll with Mariota. I don't see how that you can't. There's no way he wouldn't make it through a season anyway. Mariota.
Now, I think the accuracy issues over 16 games will show up,
Oh God.
and we're not talking about going from a $22 million cap hit down to like $3 million. Like, if they did that, they would still keep Mariota on the books, and he's a little over 10. So
yeah,
$10 million you're saving, $11 million is one defensive player. That's not going to make a big enough difference. Like, if Mariota was like a $2 or $3 million deal and you're saving 20 and you can go out and get 3 guys, that makes sense. But it doesn't make sense to save 10 million.
I totally agree with you on that one. Favre's comments on Watson's contract. I'm not sure, we won't discuss age because but as far as that goes, like as far as I go, as long as I've been watching NFL, and whenever somebody held out, Ryan, they've always said when the player who holds out is he's the players who have players away from the team, he's holding out, and then they asked his teammates about it. The whole thing was you don't discuss another player's money, right?
Always been that way. That's
always
the code,
been,
yeah.
Always been the way, the code, right? So why is Favre discussing somebody else's money?
I don't know. And it's interesting, him of all people, after, he got traded early in his career from Atlanta to Green Bay. And then in Green Bay, towards the end of his career, once Rodgers was there, he was always threatening, I'm going to retire, I'm going to do this. And he held the team hostage and didn't give them much notice until late in the summer. And he did that for a couple of years, and then he kind of retired, and then he forced his way. He wanted to go to Minnesota. They wouldn't trade him within division, so he ended up in New York, and then he forced his way basically over to Minnesota. So I don't know why Favre's the one coming out and saying basically something along the lines of you're paid too much money, do your job, let the chips fall where they may. You're not supposed to have a voice. Like, he was the exact opposite of that the last 5 to 6 years of his career. So I don't know why he's talking. And then he came out and said, Jacksonville should trade the number 1 pick. Don't take Trevor Lawrence, take Devonta Smith. And it's like, he's like, oh, you can get a quarterback whenever you want. It's not that easy. Like, I don't know what Brett has some revisionist history going on.
Yeah, that is. Yeah, you can get a quarterback anytime you want. Like,
every team, if that was true, that would all have all-pro quarterbacks.
It'd be 32 teams with some great quarterbacks. Wouldn't you think? I mean, that's crazy as far as that goes. Living in New England, which was being a Raider fan was a nightmare, as you can imagine. Especially in when I was really young, it was great because they never won anything. They were threatening to move the team to Hartford, but this latest thing with Stafford, I understand that Stafford was probably in Cabo with McVay, right? Who knows? They're probably just hanging out together. That's why that deal got done. But him kind of specifically saying, hey, I don't want to trade me. The quote unquote was like, trade me anywhere, but don't trade me to New England. Does that bode well for the future of what Belichick wants to do? Are you going to see? Is he going to have to force a quarterback who has a no trade clause to get traded to New England in order to get somebody to come there? Because it doesn't seem like people are like lining up out the door to go to Foxborough.
It's kind of a 2-part question. So first, I don't think it was a that Matt Stafford and Sean McVay's happy in Cabo the same weekend as trade goes down. So clearly something was going on there. They planned that. They have some family, friends. But as far as going to New England, I think that says a lot about Matt Patricia more than any, because I don't think Matt Stafford wants anything to do with the Patriot way and or Matt Patricia and kind of how he ran the Lions when he was there. So I take it more of that. As far as Belichick, it's going to be tough. Are they going to spend the money? They have the cap room to go out and sign one of these mid-tier free agent quarterbacks, but then you're dealing with a guy who's somewhere in the 15 to 20, 22 in the league. I don't think he's the type of guy that has the time or patience to go draft a rookie quarterback in the first round.
No.
You keep seeing in all these mock drafts. Bill Belichick's not going to sit around for 3 years with a rookie quarterback. So they're going to have to do something, whether that's a trade, whether they find a way to get a mid-tier guy, maybe the Kirk Cousins, so maybe Minnesota wants to move on from him, but there is musical chairs going on. It's going to be very interesting to find out who ends up in New England and what caliber quarterback Belichick gets, because that's going to determine it. He can have a great defense and do all this stuff on offense and run the ball, but we saw what happens when they don't have a quarterback in New England.
Yeah. Where does the Vikings pick?
The Vikings are 14. They're just in front of the Raiders, I think.
From the Raiders, yeah. So they're not. I mean, they're not going to be in a situation where like they could even. Because I heard some rumblings about it. I know that. Shanahan in San Francisco loves Cousins and would love to see him come back. Love to play with Shanahan again. Like, there's no way possible that could be a thing where they actually trade him because they can't. Like, what do they do in Minnesota if Kirk Cousins gets traded?
I don't know. They just extended him last year to create cap room. So I don't know what his cap hit is off the top of my head, but it's going to be an exorbitant amount. And I don't see Mike Zimmer, who might be in a make or break year. If they don't make the playoffs again, I don't know if he's going to be around much longer and go out and get a rookie quarterback. So all these coaches that are in a dire situation to make the playoffs next week, they're being tied to trading away the veteran quarterbacks they have right now. And none of them are going to be able to upgrade. So there's a lot of talk going on right now. I don't see a ton of quarterbacks getting traded. It's going to be more, where does Jameis Winston end up, or some of these free agents? Does Marcus Mariota get released? Does he go somewhere? Those kind of things, more than, Cousins going to go here, Garoppolo's going there, Carr's going here. Like, I just don't see that.
Yeah, me either. I think it's just fodder for the off season. Cousins is 33 years old going into this year. Going to make $21 million, cap hit of 31. And then that last year will be a cap hit of 31 million, 45 million on the cap hit in 2022. So
they're not trading him with those numbers.
Yeah, those numbers is like, as pretty hefty numbers as well.
And you hear Carson Wentz today being tied to Indianapolis. I saw that on ESPN this morning. And just look at his cap number. It's well over $35 million just to move him.
So if you move, like, let's just say for Philly, whatever, Philly moves him or just trying to move him. Like, what was the point of getting rid of Doug Peterson just because, the GM didn't like him? Because he just wanted to play the guy who gave him the best chance to win. And at that time it was Jalen Hurts. Yeah.
And the other issue you have is you brought in Nick Sirianni because you thought that coming from Frank Reich's system, he can implement something similar to what Carson Wentz had when Peterson first got there and Reich was the quarterback coach or the OC. So that just doesn't make sense. It was a power struggle. Carson Wentz won the power struggle against Doug Peterson. Mm-hmm. Then why would they move Wentz a couple of weeks later and take that kind of cap hit when they clearly have a ton of holes on that team?
Yeah, that's just, I agree. You buying all the Mac Jones hype in the Senior Bowl?
No
stuff. No.
I still wouldn't take him in the first round. I know he's accurate. He had all these weapons, but he's going to go to a situation where they're not going to have an offensive line. They're not going to have the weapons that he had there. And he doesn't offer you the athleticism, the ability to create out of structure. And this league is all about who's creating out of structure and who's not. Mm-hmm. The pure pocket guy who can't move, there's not a lot of value for those guys anymore.
Yeah. I don't, is it hard to, when you're watching players like that on film, is it hard to really judge a player like that when he's playing with so much immense talent? He's playing with talent that is off the charts. So many NFL players are on that team.
No, it's very hard because he's not throwing under pressure. No one's getting around him. He's not getting sacked. He has Najee Harris behind him to hand the ball off to, and then he's got a couple of wide receivers out wide that are creating elite separation. Where he can just throw the ball up, and he's just reading a play here, a play there. They're doing a lot of RPOs there too. So that's another thing. You're not seeing him throw traditional NFL routes and reading coverages. Alabama's just RPOing the death out of everyone in college.
Yeah.
He reminds, and he's not the same kind of player, but just go back, I'll age myself here a little bit, but Gino Torretta, the Ken Dorseys, the Matt Leinarts, the guys who are playing with elite offensive talent around them that looked like they were going to be superstars, just couldn't do it because at the end of the day, as soon as the talent around them dissipated, they just weren't that good.
Yeah, Matt, you brought some names back, boy.
Yeah.
Yeah, Gino. I see Gino. I heard Gino in a long time.
Yeah.
And we were talking about the Vikings really quick. They picked 14th, like you said, and it just seems like there's so many quarterback hungry. Even if Deshaun gets traded, there's so many quarterback hungry teams in front of them. They're not getting it unless they trade up from 14. There's no way.
Yeah, you're going to have five quarterbacks probably go in the top 12 or 13. And that'll include Mac Jones. I don't think I would do it, but and Trey Lance and obviously Fields, Wilson, and Lawrence. There's probably 8 of the top 10 teams could probably take a quarterback if they really wanted to.
I know you'll have some time to go kind of in depth with some of those guys, but Trey Lance is a name that everybody keeps whipping out. Do you feel like he is a guy who is going to be is he a project, or will he come out the gate and just kind of tear up the league?
That's the $1 million question, because if teams knew the answer to that, they take him in the top 5. He's very interesting. Really
arm
good
strength, right?
Yeah, size, speed, arm strength. He's mobile. How many progressions did he go through at North Dakota State? I don't know. I haven't seen the film. I don't know if he's a one read and throw and run guy, but he has all the talent. Now, maybe he needs a year to sit, but the upside there is much higher than Mac Jones. But Mac Jones's floor is much higher. So you want to take the safe guy and just get a guy that could be a competent starter. If Mac Jones turns into Mark Bulger during his time with the Rams, are you okay with that? Or are you going to shoot the moon and try to get the next, top 5, top 6 elite quarterback in the NFL, which Lance has the ability to do that. I just don't know how far away he is to getting close to that.
Yeah, makes sense. You heard Atlanta is going to keep Julio, keep Matt Ryan. They could say that now and then trade him. It doesn't really matter. I would definitely try to, if I was them, I'd try to, with the production that Gage gave them, I would definitely try to come back and what Gage and Ridley did. I definitely would try to come back and with those guys and try to trade Julio Jones. But they do have a unique opportunity to have Ryan and then draft his successor at 4. Like there's no, have him not. So that could be a spot where Lance kind of would fit right in.
They have to take a quarterback at 4 because Matt Ryan's at the end of his run, and you don't know when you're going to be picking that high. So if you're in the top 4 or 5, I don't care who you are or who your quarterback is, unless you have Patrick Mahomes or Watson or Josh Allen or one of these guys, you got to try it. You got to keep swinging, because the ability to win big in this league, you need a top 5, 6, 7 quarterback in this league to have any kind of chance to win deep in the playoffs. So the Falcons, they may keep Matt Ryan, go 8-8. Next year they're picking 17th and 18th, and then Matt Ryan's moving on, and they're stuck with no quarterback in the wing. So they have to take a quarterback at 4.
And doing it during a rookie contract is where you can build that team out too as well. So that's really important. The facet of drafting a quarterback and getting him on the field, getting him playing very well. You'll see it with the Chargers. The Chargers are going to have that. They have that good young quarterback. They're going to try to build that team around him before they have to pay him, to pay Herbert as far as that goes. Who did win Rookie of the Year? On the Super Bowl, there is a game on Sunday. It is the weirdest, with all the meetings and stuff like that. That is it's not even really like a. It feels like it's just a kind of an afterthought a little bit about it. It has afterthought feel with COVID and everything like that. Let's start off with the battle between a familiar battle between Brady and Spagnuolo here. When I look at the Chiefs defense, it's one in which where he's just trying to, at some point, he'll give you whatever he wants to give you, but he's just trying to create a huge negative play somewhere along the drive to force you to punt or force you to kick a field goal, because he knows he has that ace in the hole, Patrick Mahomes, Kelsey Hill, who can score a boatload of points. What are your thoughts about Brady versus Spagnuolo again?
I think the key to this game in that regard is Frank Clark. If Frank Clark can get pressure off the edge and they don't have to bring pressure and they can rely on Jones and Clark to get there, then they're going to have a chance to hold them down a little bit. If they have to start bringing guys off the slot or bringing linebackers and showing coverages early, I think Brady's might be able to pick them apart. I like the matchups outside in this game for Tampa, especially with Evans and Godwin going up against the corners of the Chiefs. And then kind of what do they do with Tyrann Mathieu? He's going to be the wild card. Like, what do they do with him? Like, he's not going to match up with Gronk. Gronk's way too big for him. Is he going to go down in the slot and cover a slot guy? Or is he going to blitz? Is he going to play a lot of robber? So I think Spagnuolo is going to come up with a plan to use Mathieu in this game to be a difference maker. But at the end of the day, Frank Clark and Chris Jones have to get pressure, or this is going to be a very high-scoring game.
As far as how the game is called, how important is it that these officials don't kind of bog the game down with a bunch of penalties, because it is the only chance that, some of these, that if you're going to have against Kelce, you're going to have against, Gronk or any of these other guys, you have to hit them at the line of scrimmage to slow them down just a little bit. If you give a free runner, that's free points. You cannot give these guys free releases off of the line of scrimmage and expect to stop them.
Yeah, I think the Chiefs are going to come out and play a lot of press. That's what they've done in the playoffs, get real handsy. And you've seen as some of these playoff games have gone on, they've let these DBs get away with a lot, 10, 15 yards down the field that you don't see during the regular season. So are they going to react to that call in the Green Bay game where there's, people asking, why are you calling it at the end of the game when you didn't call it all game? Or are they just going to let them play? I think they're just going to let them play. And these guys are going to be able to press. They're going to be able to get hands on them. But once the ball's in the air, they're going to call it a little bit tighter. But Kansas City, I saw somewhere has played the most press on the outside of detached wide receivers. So when those guys get outside the numbers, they're pressing more than anyone in the league. So I'd expect them to continue to do that.
Let's see here. Brady. As far as Tom Brady goes, do you feel like he's playing solid football or just great football? Because you look at the fact that they have they have 41 points off of turnovers in these playoffs. He does have some turnovers in the playoffs as well. Do you feel like he's playing obviously he could have a lights out Super Bowl and this would be a moot point, but do you feel like going into this game he's playing really good football?
I'd call it solid. I wouldn't say it's great. He's made some throws where he's kind of just left the ball up there and he's thrown some interceptions and turned it over. Is he playing poor football? I wouldn't say that. He's had stretches where he's looked great, and then he has stretches where he doesn't, and that's kind of where the age comes into it. So we'll see what happens in this game. If they don't get pressure on him, I think he's going to throw for 300 yards and he's going to throw 2 or 3 touchdowns, and they're going to put up 25 to 30 points on this Kansas City defense. The other thing is they run the ball a ton on first down, so that he's consistently in second and third and long. So do they change it up? Do they do more play action? Do they throw it on first down to get better matchups on the outside against coverages? So that's going to kind of be the key is what are they doing on first down and how many yards are they picking them up? Do they get to second and medium, third and short, or are we looking at second and 8, third and 9 the whole game?
As far as Mahomes versus this defense, it is the guy has a 96.5 QBR versus the blitz. Like you blitz him, he usually burns you. Is this a situation where Todd Bowles has to restrain himself from what he likes to do and just have a game-specific game plan for Mahomes in order to calm him down? Because if they blitz like crazy, it just seems like he's going to find that one guy. He's going to find that guy who's open, and he's going to make a big play.
The Bucs have a young secondary, so I don't think they're going to blitz as much in this game against Mahomes. They're going to try to get there with 4, especially with the condition that the Chiefs' offensive line is in with all the injuries they have. Playing guards at tackle, and I think Mike Rimmers is playing left tackle in this game. He hasn't played left tackle all year, so they're going to rely on Sue, Pierre-Paul, and then obviously Barrett on the other side to try to get there. Now, if they can't get there and they have to start bringing guys out of the secondary or bring those linebackers who are very quick, they're going to have a lot of problems with Kelce. If David or White can't match up, if they're being used to blitz and you have to put a safety on Kelsey, he's going to go off. And then what do you do with Tyreek Hill if you're bringing guys? You can't double him out of the secondary if you're bringing guys out of coverage to blitz. So I would think in the first quarter, you're going to see a lot of, rush 4, play coverage, and try to double team and keep guys back to take away Hill. Mm-hmm. And how do they defend those guys out of the slot? Because Kansas City is really good at putting Hill and Kelsey in the slot, running over routes and getting him on the backside safety. And kind of the way the Raiders and the Chargers did that is, playing a poach coverage out of, cover 6, where the backside safety is taking the number 3 receiver if he goes vertical or comes across the field. So it's going to be interesting. The young secondary, I think they're going to give up points. You saw Kansas City move the ball very easily on them earlier in the year. And I think Hill had 200 yards in the first quarter of that first meeting.
Yeah,
so
he did, yeah.
How are they going to cover him? That's going to be the question.
Yeah, it's very difficult to see how. I mean, young guys are just they're not patient. I mean, they get a little bit out of technique, out of coverage. It's very difficult for them to do that. They want to be the hero. They want to be the hero a lot of times. We see it with a certain number 24 on the Raiders. Yeah. Like they don't have the patience to kind of stay. They kind of stay in that. To stay in that zone or stay in that coverage to be able to make some plays. Is there an interesting third guy who might be if they do a sufficient job of taking one of those 2 guys away? Is there a guy who might be a hidden hero here for the Chiefs as far as that goes offensively?
I think it's going to be a combination of Sammy Watkins and Mecole Hardman. Those 2 guys are going to have to show up if they're going to play coverage and keep the safeties back and take away the deep shots to Hill, and they can figure out how to get guys on underneath coverage on Kelsey. One of those 2 other guys, Watkins or Hardman, is going to have a big game. I fully expect Andy Reid, who's had 2 weeks to prepare for this with that offensive line, you're going to see a lot of quick stuff early, maybe some jet motion, some wide receiver screens. Just get the ball in space with his playmakers and then find out what Bowles is doing. Is Bowles bringing pressure? Because if he brings pressure early and they're going to the short game, that's going to benefit the Chiefs. If they're staying back, I expect them to run the ball a little bit too. I know it's hard to run on the Bucs, but they're going to at least try it just to see if they can get some of the RPO stuff going, because they run a lot of RPOs too. So if they're not even attempting to run the ball, then they can't even try to run RPOs.
When you have offensive linemen we have backup offensive linemen, I've seen this a lot where people try to, because it's going to be hard for you to drop back 40 times, 50 times with backup offensive linemen. It's going to show up. You're going to see a guy like Shaq Barrett, JPP get loose. Is it even if they attempt to run, if they're only getting 2 or 3 yards, how important is it for Casey to run the ball early in this ball game?
I think they need to do it to try to, if let's say Tampa comes out and plays 2 high shell looks, and then, they have, 6 guys in the box, they have to try.
Yeah.
Because you have to get them out of it. If you can get them to get out of that and they have to bring an 8th guy down in the box, then that's going to open up everything for them. And like I mentioned earlier with the RPO stuff, if they aren't even trying, then they can't, that goes right out of their playbook. So we'll see. I think it's going to be tough. I don't think they're going to run the ball successfully against that interior, against that defensive line with those linebackers, with that line, but they have to try it. But at the end of the day, too, you don't want to go overboard and run the ball 25 or 30 times and take the ball out of Mahomes' hands in the biggest game in the Super Bowl. You're going to have to let your best player make plays. So you're going to see a lot of screens. I think a lot of stuff trying to get outside on some of these backers and some of the line. They're not going to run downhill and try to run between the tackles.
Yeah, no question about it. Who do you like?
I like the Chiefs. I think the Chiefs are going to win this one. Mahomes is too good. They beat him pretty well earlier this year. Brady is going to have to play a pretty good game. We'll see. I don't know how Antonio Brown's status is looking, but I think Spagnuolo's defense is going to make just enough plays. And I take Kansas City somewhere in the close game, 31-28, something in that ballpark, 31-27.
Yeah, I'm not gonna bet. I think the Chiefs end up winning this at the end. I just don't. If Brady came in and playing a little bit better, I think that the one turnover is okay, but he's had, I mean, that's 3 turnovers in a playoff game. You're lucky to survive that. There's no, I mean, that's just really difficult to think that you could survive that as far as getting out of Lambeau Field with a win when you turn the ball over that many times. And KC is not trying to be the 85 Bears. They're just trying for you to. They're gonna press that every throw have to be perfect, and then with that press coverage, and then if you turn the ball over, I mean, Tyrann, the honey badger, Tyrann Matthew is usually there sitting there waiting. He makes a impactful play all the time. it seems like he does it all the time as far as that goes.
Yeah. I think the one thing people aren't talking about is there's rain in the forecast. I think it's 75% chance of rain.
I just looked up the Super Bowl weather too. I just thought about that too as well. So that could
I think that favors Kansas City actually.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
That's true. We'll see what happens as far as that goes. I'm excited about the Al Davis 30 for 30.
I am. I'm going to watch that tonight at 6:00 here on the West Coast, and just reading a little bit about it out of The Athletic. I think Vic Tafer wrote an article about it, and it seemed to spin it in a pretty positive light for the Raiders and Al Davis. So that was my one concern: is what side was this going to take? Was this going to basically put the Raiders at blame and say the NFL was right? But it sounds like it's pro Raiders, so that'll be good.
Yeah, good too. Yeah. Some folks have already texted me and said that's why we can't get a call because he beat up on Roselle back in the day. One Texas thing I wanted to discuss before we bounce as well. Did they with Josh McCown getting the interview, and that kind of just surprised a lot of people that he got an interview. Is this basically a way of getting him ready to take that job? You hire an experienced 65-year-old coach in Cully. He can hold down the fort for you for a couple of years. And then when you want McCown to take over, he can just step right in, which is probably one of the reasons why people cannot stand or players cannot stand what's going on with the Texans.
Yeah, I think you're going down the right path. I don't know if they offered him a job on the staff, if he's the quarterback coach or whatever, but he's definitely putting himself in line to be the next coach of the Houston Texans, whether that's 2 or 3 years from now, when they move on from Coley, once they kind of get the rebuild over with and use the picks if they trade Watson. I could see McCown easily walking in there, and maybe he doesn't want to be on the NFL staff as a quarterback coach now. He wants to be closer to his family. Maybe he continues coaching at the high school level for the next year or two, but he's definitely going to be in the running when they make a change there, which is probably going to happen in the next 2 or 3 years.
And for the people of color who are trying to get interviews, I mean, that's just, I mean, that is just like a frustrating situation for it. I mean, I'm not sure what the answer is because they're trying draft picks, they're trying all these different things. Owners are just gonna pretty much hire who they want to hire. Like let's just call it like it is. I mean, there's nothing that can be done. I don't think.
No, the main thing is you got to feed the pipeline. They need to get opportunities to call plays. They need to be not DBs coaches or wide receivers or running back coaches. They have to be offensive coordinators and defensive coordinators. And that's kind of the holdup. You don't see a lot of people of color in those positions. So that's going to have to be the next step, whether that happens in the next couple of years or the next 10 years. The pipeline, there's plenty of qualified coaches, but they just have to be given the opportunity.
Yeah. Let's see what happens as far as that goes in the future. Let's see. I think that's pretty much. I think we kind of got a lot done in a short period of time. I think we both like the Chiefs to go out here and win the Super Bowl. As painful as that, it's fun. I mean, growing up, I never thought I had to worry about the Chiefs winning the Super Bowl, and now I got to worry about them winning like 4 or 5,
it's like 6 or 7,
6 or 7. So hopefully that in the salary cap era, something happens as far as that goes. Who do you feel like, as far as like last question, who do you feel like is the coach who took over, the new coach who took over a team who you would feel like would have the biggest impact in 2021?
I'm going to say Robert Saleh. I like that hire with the Jets. I think he's just going to go in there. The culture is going to get changed. I think the defense, they have defensive pieces there. If they can figure out the quarterback situation, whether that's they move on from Darnold or not, they have the second pick. If they go out and get Zach Wilson or Justin Fields, they have some cap money. They have a left tackle. If they can get some weapons get a running game going, and then they play any sort of semblance, I could see that team being, 6-10, 7-9, maybe pushing for 8-8 if everything goes right.
Yeah.
Um,
As far as I mean, that's the one team that I just think would make all the sense in the world to just go get rid of that draft capital and get those players, and get Watson if he's on the market. I'm not sure what's going to happen as far as his availability is, but it just makes all the sense in the world for the Jets to go do that.
I think the Texans are in a tough spot here because they're clearly stating they don't want to trade him. But if they wait till after the draft and we get into training camp and he holds out and doesn't show up, then it's going to be kind of like the Khalil Mack situation where you have a player who's not going to show up. You could have moved him to get draft capital. There's no point in moving him in August at that point for future draft picks. So you can just hold on to him throughout the season. And who's going to blink first. So I don't see the Texans blinking prior to the draft unless they get blown away, unless a team like the report came out. If it's 4 number ones, then you could probably have a conversation. If it's 3 number ones and a player or two, but anything short of that, they're not picking up the phone.
How do you refer to him as the player in the press conference?
I don't know.
I don't know. That organization is so weird. And you're buying any of the Andrew Luck stuff?
No, I'm not buying any of it.
Yeah, football's a sport where once you quit it, it's out of your system. I think. I don't think you. I think it's such a hard game that once the love goes away, you can't do it anymore.
And he's been away long enough where he's got a degree from Stanford. He's made enough money in his career. Like, it's not about money at this point. I think he's done.
I think he's done. All right,
physically,
Ryan.
I don't think he can hold up at this point.
Even with that offensive line, I don't think he can. I don't think he can either. Okay. All right, Ryan. You enjoy your day, man. Take care.
All right. Thank you.